You know, it's one thing to be told you're heading into a conflict. It is a completely different thing to feel it in your gut, that exact moment of realization, when it all becomes real. That's where our story kicks off today.
So we're going to break down the anatomy of a revolt. We're diving deep into the complicated, often chaotic conflict that just exploded in Iraq after 2003. And we're going to see it all through the eyes of someone who wasn't just there to watch, but to try and understand it and maybe help end it.
All right, so picture this. It's November 3rd, 2003, at what the military called BIAP, Baghdad International Airport. Our narrator has just landed after one of those stomach-in-your-throat corkscrew descents in a C-130. He's hauling himself off the ramp in full gear, expecting to see his ride, but there's no one. His promised escort is just nowhere in sight.
I mean, talk about everything that can go wrong, going wrong. He's stranded. The landlines are dead. His satellite phone, the battery's shot. And the message about his pickup seems to have just vanished into a bureaucratic black hole. His only way out of this mess turns out to be a beat-up old minibus. It's just a perfect snapshot of the chaos on the ground.
So after this incredibly nerve-wracking ride, he finally makes it to the main gate of the green zone, only to get hit with a classic catch-22. The guard tells him he can't come in without a special ID card. Okay, fair enough. So where do I get the ID card? Oh, you get it inside. You have to be inside to get the ID you need to get in. It perfectly captures the complete lack of foresight.
Just when he thinks he's finally getting somewhere, reality hits hard. He steps 1 foot inside the ID office, and boom, mortars start raining down on the green zone. It's instant chaos, people screaming, diving under desks. What a welcome, right? And it taught him a hard lesson. From that day on, he never went anywhere without his protective gear.
And this, right here, gets to the heart of it. This whole crazy arrival wasn't just a string of bad luck. It was the start of his mission. His own personal chaos was a perfect mirror of the much larger chaos he had been sent there to figure out. So to understand that chaos, we've got to go back to the beginning. Let's take a look at the key decisions made right after the invasion, the ones that basically planted the seeds for a full-blown revolt.
It was like a domino effect, really. First, the regime falls. Then the Coalition Provisional Authority makes a huge call. They disband the entire Iraqi army. Suddenly, you have hundreds of thousands of military-aged men who are trained, who have weapons, and who are now deeply humiliated with no jobs. For a lot of them, it became a question of honor to fight back.
And this wasn't just some abstract policy. It had a devastating, very real human cost. I mean, think about it. You have career soldiers, men with status, suddenly reduced to selling tea on the street. That loss of income, career, and especially honor, well, it created the perfect recruiting ground for an insurgency. Now, this is really crucial to understand. The insurgency wasn't one big unified group. Not at all. It was a messy, fractured rebellion made up of a lot of different factions. You can think of it as an alliance of convenience. You had the old regime loyalists trying to get their power back. You had Iraqi nationalists just wanting to kick out foreign troops. Then you had local tribes defending their own turf and money. And on top of all that, you had Islamist extremists with a totally different global agenda. They all shared an enemy, but they sure didn't share a vision for the future.
So yeah, they could work together to attack a convoy or plant a roadside bomb. But when it came time to talk about what came next, to form a unified political front, the whole thing just fell apart. Their long-term goals were just too different. And that was a major strategic weakness for them.
This brings us to the central problem for the U.S. response. How do you fight this kind of complicated insurgency, where sometimes the more you fight, the worse you make the political problem? See, the author says there were 2 fights happening at once. The military fight, the kinetic one, and the political fight. The U.S. military was winning just about every single battle, no question. But those very actions, the raids, the arrests, were often alienating the exact people they needed to win over for the more important political fight. Man, this quote from Colonel Douglas McGregor is just absolutely devastating, and it gets right to the point. Heavy-handed tactics, kicking down doors, arresting people in front of their kids, it ended up creating more enemies than it ever got rid of. Now, to win that political fight, to win hearts and minds, the plan was to rebuild Iraq, and Congress approved a massive amount of money to do it, $18.4 billion. But here's the catch. As the violence got worse, it created what the source calls a security premium. The money that was supposed to go to rebuilding water systems and power grids, stuff that actually makes people's lives better, had to be rerouted to just pay for security. By early 2005, a staggering 43% of that money wasn't going to reconstruction at all.
And underneath all of this, there was a much, much deeper problem. You see, the insurgency wasn't just a reaction to the invasion. It was poured on top of these deep, historical fault lines within Iraqi society itself.
This breakdown right here shows you the core power dynamic. For generations, the Sunni Arab minority, just 20% of the population, had run the country. Meanwhile, the Shia majority had been almost completely shut out of power.
So, the 2003 invasion did a lot more than just topple a dictator. It was a political earthquake. It completely flipped a power structure that had been in place for over 80 years. The fall of the regime meant the end of Sunni rule and the beginning of the rise of the long-sidelined Shia majority. And that leads us to the final, big question about the long-term fallout of this conflict, and what kind of country actually emerged from all the smoke and rubble. The author challenges the simple story that Iraq just transitioned to a democracy. Instead, he introduces this term ethnocracy. That's a system where your rights and power are based on your ethnic group. He argues that for 83 years, Iraq was basically a Sunni ethnocracy. So the question is, what came next? And that leaves us with a really provocative question to chew on. Was the final result of the war a truly democratic, inclusive Iraq for everybody? Or was one form of ethnic rule just replaced by another, with a different group now calling the shots? It's a question that really gets to the very heart of the conflict's messy and complicated legacy.